Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day today, but we're going to be adding on to what we did in the last video, which was the simplest way to transition scenes. But in today's video, it's going to be a lot more advanced, it's going to be a lot more modular, and we're going to add a nice little transition to the game. So when you go through doors, you have a nice transition into the next world, and you can do this infinite amount of times with infinite amount of worlds. Now if you are new to the channel, then please hit that subscribe button, as it really does help the channel out. But let's get started with the tutorial. Okay, so on to the tutorial. Now in the tutorial, or to start, we have a world 1, scene 1, and world 2, scene 2. We also have a player scene with a player script, probably the simplest player script of all time. But we are going to be adding in transitions with the little fade that you just saw in the introduction. So to start, we're going to want to go up here and we are going to want to add a world scene, or a world script. So I'll just name the script world.gd because I will be using this on world 1 and on world 2. We'll add it to world 2 in a minute once we finish it on world 1. But to start it, this is going to be basically transporting the data to swap between scene 1 and scene 2, and it's also going to be taking the area 2D here and the input here, or the area 2D input here and the area 2D input over here, to know like, okay, yeah, we want to go through the door, so it'll send a signal to the scene changing script, which we will make here in a little bit, and we will swap scenes and we'll play animations and stuff like that. But for the script, we're gonna need some signals, some variables. So for me, I'm gonna have, since I have area 2Ds, if you have an area 2D or a door or something that, you know, if you're in a certain area and you click a button, then you go, then you would want this variable entered. If that's not the case, then don't do that. But I'm just gonna do var entered equals false to start. We're also going to want to make a signal variable, and let's see, we need an export variable, and then we need a signal right here. So I'll just make a signal, we'll name it world changed, I guess we can do, and then we'll have the world name, or name, I meant world name, just like so. Now let's see, we're gonna want the export variable. We'll make this a string, and we can have the var world name as we just put up here, and then we'll put world, since it will be for world 1 and world 2. We'll put world for now. Now we're gonna need a physics process function, or just a process function, my bad. We're gonna want just a process function here. If I can type process function, if entered is equal to true. So it's gonna check if we're in the zone, then if the input is clicked, and for me the input is going to be UI accept. So if we're in the zone and we click the enter button, then we want to emit this signal up here, and we'll change worlds. So emit signal world changed, and put a comma and world name, just like so. But now we want to make sure we're in the area. So how are we going to make enter true and false? Well, we got to go to area 2D. We have transition or signals. We want to add a signal body entered signal. We also want to add a body exited signal, just like so. And so if body exited, then we want entered to equal false because we're not in the area. And if we are in the area, then we want entered to equal true. We also need to make sure it's a player body, so we can do, or we want to make sure it's a physics body 2D. We'll put that there, space stuff out more evenly just to make it look better. Now we need to go to world 2. So this is all for world 1. We want to go to world 2. We want to add the same script to the world 2. And then we want to add the signals from the area 2D here. So body entered and the body exited. We also want to make sure on the entered it is we want to make sure it's a physics body 2D. And well, if we're in the area, then we want entered to equal true. So we are able to go through the door here and we're able to emit the signal so we can swap scenes to the back and forth from scene 1 and scene 2. And make it look a little bit neater here. That should be good. Now obviously, if we play, nothing is going to happen, obviously, but we can go up here and we can check for a signal emitted, or we can make sure we get in this area here to make sure all this stuff here is working. So we'll just print entered. So if we go here, now if we're out here, we click accept, we're not going to go through, but here we're going to see it prints entered down here in the output. Only if we're in this area. If we're out of the area, it's not going to do it. If we're in the area, it will do it. So everything so far is good to go. Okay, so now for the scene changing. We're going to want to go and we are going to want to add a completely new scene. We want this to just be a normal node, and we can name this whatever you want. But since it is for scene changing, I'll just name it scene change. That's all we have to do. We'll save it as scenechange.tscn. There's going to be nothing here, but we want to go and add world 1. So we're going to click on the scene change here. We're going to click on this little chain a link so we can instance a child scene, and we're going to want to instance whatever your level 1 is. For me, it's world 1, but if you have like 50 levels, you want to do your very first level here, or the starting area. So the starting world is where you want to be. Now we're also going to want to add for the animation, we need an animation player. And since I don't have since we're going to make a fade, we just want a color rect so we can create the fade. So we can click on the color rect, we can click on layout, we can click on a full rect so it covers up the entire screen. We can also need to change the mouse input from stop to ignore. This just allows, we can click through it and it doesn't change, or it doesn't block the click. So if you have a button under the color rect, it doesn't matter, you can still click the button. We also want the color to be black for our fade, and we also want this A value here to be equal to 0, so it's transparent. Now for the animation, we want to go to the animation player and we can click on a new animation. We'll click on, or we'll name it fade in. I'll make my animation 0.5 seconds. I recommend you do the same because I've tried out with like a second. Most of it takes too long. 0.5 seconds is like the perfect timing. So you want to go to your color rect, you want to go to the very beginning of the animation, you want to click this little key up here. If you can see this key, click it, just click create, and there you go. So it's going to add a transparent image, or a transparent piece right here. Then you want to click on the color, you want to make it the A value all the way up. Then you want to go to the end, whoops, make the color all the way up. Then you want to click on the key again, and if you play the animation, well, you'll see a nice fade in there. Now we want to make a new one and we'll name it fade out. Basically do the exact same thing but the opposite. So we want to mark it in, or wait, we want to start it as full black, and then we want to end it as transparent. If you can see that, so now fading out will fade out just fine. That all looks good. Now we want to make a, let's see, we want to make a script. We'll make this scene change.gd, that's fine. Now this is the complicated part of the entire thing. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna need the ready function. So I'll just delete all this other stuff here, just not the ready function, because we're gonna need the ready function. We need a variable. We'll name the variable next world. We're gonna need a bunch of variables here. So next world, current world, all that stuff. the current world, we need it to be an onReady var. So onReady var current world, and we want to instance our scene, so the little money sign, and then whatever the name of the world is, whatever the name of this right here is, which for me is world 1. So that's fine. We also need to access our animation player, so onReady var, I just realized I spelled this wrong up here. Put a T instead of an R. We need an onReady var, I'll just name it ANIM, and we'll access our animation player, so animation player. Now, let's see, for our ready function, first thing, let's make this a void, and then we're gonna wanna connect to make into a function so we can handle the world change, and we can swap. So if we're on world 1, we go through, we go to world 2. If we're on world 2, we go to world 1. So we'll do current world, which is a variable we made, dot connect, and then world changed, and then we want to do self, and then we want to make a new function here, which this is basically going to handle the entire world changing. So it's going to be a pretty important part in the thing, so we'll just name it handle world change, basic name, and then we want to create, let's create this function. So function handle world changed. We need the current world name. Okay, so yeah, we'll take the current world and then name, and then this is going to be a string. Okay. Now let's see. So we're going to need to make another variable here for the next world name, just to complete, so we can go from current world to next world. So we'll just do var next world name. That's going to be equal to a that's going to be equal to a string. We're going to want to use a new function, which I don't think I've ever used in a video before, but I'll tell you what it does. So in other languages, it's called or in this language, it's called match. In other languages, it's called switch. That's not a thing in Godot, so we use match, and then let me just write it out and I'll show you what it does. So match current world name. So we'll match the current world name, and then world 1. So this is going to say, like, if we're on world 1, so if the current world name is equal to world 1, then the next world name is always going to be equal to world 2. But if the current world name is equal to world 2, then the next world name is going to be equal to world 1. Now, let's say you had 50 levels, then you put the next world name is going to be equal to world 3, right? So, and then you just keep going for however many levels you have. But since we're switching back and forth between 2, we only need 2. And then I'm not sure what this sign means. It's just the ending to it, and then we'll return. So this not sure what it means. It's just, it just ends the match function. But as you can see, so it will match the current world name. So if this variable here is equal to world 1, then the next world name will be equal to world 2. But if the current world name is equal to world 2, then the next world name is going to be equal to world 1. If that makes sense. It should make sense. I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know in the comments and I can try and help you out. Alright, so we'll make another variable called next world. And then the next world is just gonna load in what we just made up here. So we want to load, and then this completely depends on how your down here is set up, your file system is set up. So since my world 1 and world 2 are just, they're not in a folder or anything, yours might be in a folder, but since mine aren't in a folder, I'm not gonna have to load that. So I'm just gonna put res dot / here. I'll show you. So if I, whoops, let me reset this real. If you drag in a world and you put it in here, it's going to come out like this. So what you're going to want to do, as you see, we have world 1. It's the same thing right here. So that's what we're setting it to. So we can plug it in here, our world 2. But how would we do this? Well, we want to end those just like that, and then we want to add a plus. So we want to basically add in the next world name, which we just set up here. So because we want to load in the next world, so we'll load in the next world name, and then we'll add on the ending. So this is the equivalent of getting this down here, and then we want to obviously we want to instance it, which is a Godot function that Godot has made. Now let's see, so we're gonna need the animation or the color rect or the transition. We want it to be at the very front of the world. So we want the next world, as we're still going through the transition, we want the next world to be behind it. So since my worlds here are nodes, just a node 2D, they have a Z index. Yours may have something else. Like, I don't know what the other stuff is, but I'm not sure. I think it's .z equals -1. Let's see. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So we have a node. We go to Z index, Z transform, or it's in the node 2D transform, the position and stuff in the Z index. Right here, this will put it behind. So the lower the Z index, the farther behind in the scene it goes. So let's say my player, I don't know if a player has it. Yeah, the player does have it. See, if I minus the Z index, it's going to disappear because now it's behind this plate. But if it's even, it's just going to be on how it's placed over here. But if it's like this, then it's going to be, so look, now it's even in front of the collision shape and stuff. It just basically like, it's how the stuff is on the level, like, you know, different layers of the level, basically. So with that being said, we want the next world to be behind, and then we will reset this in a second. So we want the Z index to be equal to -1. So we'll make sure it's behind the animation or the color rect so we can see the transition. Now we want to add the child, which is going to be the next world, and then we want to play the animation. So animation.play, and then we'll play fade in, because this is the fading in. And then this right here, we want to basically replay this, but we want to do it for next world. So we can copy that, and then right here we can put in, instead of current here, we want that to say next. So the next world.connect, same thing as up here, just with the next world. Now we're gonna need to signal something from the animation player so we know when the fade in animation is completed. So we'll go to the animation player node, animation finished, and then connect it to the script up here that we're working on the scene transition. Make this look a little neater. Okay, so we're gonna use that match function again. I think this will work. Maybe not. If it doesn't work, we'll change it. But I think we can match function. So match function fade in. So if we're in fading in, or so if the animation name that we're on is fade in, that means once the animation player is finished, it's gonna check the name of the animation it just played. If it played fade in, well, we need it to do the current world, which is the world that we were just on. We want the current world to leave. So we'll queue free it, and then let's see. So the next world is going to be the world we just left, since I'm switching back and forth. This right here could be different for you, but since the current world is the world that is going to become the next world, so if we're on world 1 and we go to world 2, then the next world is going to be world 1. So I can just do current world is going to be equal to next world. As we're ending it, we want to reset the Z index. So current world dot Z index equals 0, like so. And then we want next world, let's see. So we want to play the fade out animation still. So, but we also want the next world. Let's see. We'll do next world equals null, next world equals null, and then we want animation, because we do this here because it's gonna run back through all this code, this handle function here. It's gonna run back all through this code. So the next world is gonna end up being set right here, and the current world will end up. All right, so the next world is already set as we're here. It's gonna, because it got set right here. So the current world, if we're on world 1 and we switch to world 2, then the next world is already equal to world 1. So then we want animation dot play, and we want to play fade out. Now, I think this is the first time I wrote a script like this without testing it. I made a Godot project earlier with this exact code, or something like this. I don't think right here, I didn't use a match function here, but this should work. This is gonna be my first time testing it. We'll save it, we'll play it, and it didn't work. It did not work. Okay, I think I know the issue here. Okay, yeah. So this was already set. We want this to be set to A as we start. And we can move around the world just fine. We can go over here. We click enter. We don't go through the door. If we get into the range, we do go through the door, and we are now in the next world with a nice little fade animation. Now, let's see something here. Okay, so I put on visible collision shape so we can see right here with this little collision. If we're out here, doesn't work anywhere but if we're in this zone. So now if we get up close to the door and we're in the zone, we click it, then we go through, and you can see the little collision shape right there. So we have a treasure chest and stuff like that. So next week is going to be coming out with a video about how to make a key. So you have to have a key so you can actually go through the little doors and tunnels and whatever it is. But if you don't have the key on your player, then you won't be able to go through the doors and tunnels and whatever, because the door will be locked. But thank you guys so much for watching. Or we might make it to where there's chest. You can only open this chest if you have the key. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time in a brand new DevWorm video. Stay safe and stay awesome. Goodbye.